How to make vegetable broth from kitchen scraps. Yep, that's right. All those scraps and bits and pieces of onions and carrots and whatever vegetables you're peeling, don't throw them away. You can compost them. That's actually a good idea too. But we've started saving some in a bag and put them in the freezer. And when we have a full bag like this, that's a pretty good amount. It's like 2 quarts probably, maybe a little bit more. We make veggie broth from them. Really, really super simple. We're going to be doing it in an Instant Pot, but if you don't have an Instant Pot, you can actually just do this on the stovetop as well. But what kind of vegetables? Well, pretty much anything we use. There's broccoli stalks, there's onion peels, I mean paper and all, the roots and blossoms of all that stuff, carrot ends, zucchini ends, we have Brussels sprout pieces in here, there's, oh man, just you name it, and it's dripping all over the place. So let me get this started. To do this, really easy. I'm going to dump all of my veggies into the pot. It sat out for a few minutes so it defrosted a little bit. And there we go. Now the trick to this is you want to make sure that they get frozen fairly quickly. So we just keep the bag in the freezer, and when we're done with preparations for cooking, we throw all the scraps in it and put them in the freezer. If they sit out like overnight or a couple of days before you put them away, obviously you might have a problem. So don't do that. So I have all of the ingredients that I'm going to be adding, all the herbs and spices listed in the description with their amounts. I'll just list them off as I go. But the amount of veg in here, it filled the pot about halfway. So at that point, it's kind of a little bit of a guessing game as to how much you want to make. I usually don't max out my Instant Pot. This is an 8 quart, so I'm probably just going to fill it to the max line and not go any further than that, which makes a pretty good amount for me. What do you know? The pitcher filled it. Perfect. And then I just like to make sure that everything is underwater. Oh, we have mushroom ends in here, celery stalk ends. There's all kinds of stuff in here. The trick is making sure that they're still fresh when you freeze them. I know I said it already, but it bears repeating. Make sure they are fresh when you freeze them, or else you're making stock out of basically rotten food. This is scraps, not garbage. Big, big difference. First thing that I'm going to add is some black peppercorns. Now these are actually triple peppercorns. They're white, red, and black, and we just like them. Some sage, dried. If you have fresh herbs, you can totally use fresh herbs too. This is some basil, thyme. What do I say? You can never have enough thyme. Oregano. Now this happens to be our fresh from our back. Well, it's not fresh. This happens to be from our backyard oregano, and we just dried it. Rosemary. Now, when it comes to the herbs, you can pretty much play a little fast and loose with these. You can use whatever you like. Like if we had more parsley growing right now, I'd probably throw in some fresh parsley. You can put in cilantro. You can put in fresh basil. You can do all sorts of things. Garlic. When it comes to garlic, I like a lot of garlic, but in a broth, you want to use more of a neutralish flavor. So basically, when we peel the garlic, and you do get whole heads of garlic and peel them yourself, right? Because that's the best way to get quality garlic. But anyway, when we do that, there's always some that are like little and just oddly shaped and, you know, don't look like they're as nice to cook with. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. They're just little and tiny and puny, and they just don't look as nice. So I have like 8 of those, and I just smashed them with the edge of my knife like you can see here. And I'm just going to throw them right in. But if you have big fat ones, you only need like 3. And then I'm going to add some turmeric. Now, this is optional. Actually, almost everything here is pretty much optional. You can make it with just the veggies if you want to, but this adds a little extra flavor to it. I like a nice rich veggie broth. We use it for a lot of things. So I want to make sure that it's flavorful, but yet still maintains a little bit of neutrality for all around usage. And I'm just going to mix that up. I want to make sure that everything is wet and underwater as much as possible. Now you'll notice one thing too. I don't add any salts to this at all. There's a good reason for it. I was diagnosed with hypertension and I got rid of it by changing my diet, and I'm off the medication now. So I don't want to add more salt. Also, if you want to add salt, you can add it at any time when you're cooking or at the table. I would rather my ingredients be as neutral as possible. Once that's mixed up, put the lid on. Always fun to do this sideways. Then we pressure cook this for 30 minutes. I turn off the keep warm function. You really don't need it to stay warm afterwards. We actually just want it to finish. Once that 30 minutes is up, I usually let it sit for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'll release the pressure by pushing in the button, and we'll see what it looks like then. Okay, so our 30 minutes is up. I let it sit for maybe 5 minutes or so. Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno di torno. As you can see, it's still really hot, so I'm getting out the gloves. These things are good to 500 degrees. I'm hoping it's not 500 degrees. I did carry the pot over, so I know I can handle it. And what we want to do is strain it. Now I'm just going to use a regular old colander and a big bowl. If you want to use cheesecloth, you totally can. I don't worry about the little bits of herbs and stuff that get in there because, you know, I'm probably going to cook this with herbs and stuff anyway, so we're going to have little bits anyway. But now comes probably the most dangerous part, especially for me because I usually make messes. This is where I have to dump this into this bowl. So bear with me. That wasn't so bad. So at this point, all the stuff that's in here, all these veggies and everything, that is spent. Okay, they have given up all they had. Now you can compost them. And now it's time to jar this stuff up. So I have some mason jars and lids and a ladle. You got to use a ladle. You can try pouring this, but I don't recommend it. And I'm using a big wide canning funnel, and I'm just going to ladle it in. It's still really, really hot, and that's a good thing because we're going to use those canning lids to help make a seal, which is somewhat of a preservation method. If you want to be safe, absolutely safe, what you can do is put these into a large pot of hot water, let that come to a boil, make sure that they're just about covered or a little bit over covered. Let that go for 10 to 15 minutes, shut off the heat, take them out of the water. Now you've done what's called a hot water bath. I don't generally worry about it too much when something like this is what we're putting in there. This was pressure cooked for a full 30 minutes. That means it was above 212 degrees in there. And I know that everything was really pretty fresh. So there's really not much worry about microorganisms, but be careful. Don't just take my word for it. Do whatever you feel is the safest way to do it. But what I'm going to do is fill these up to right up to the bottom of the screws, you know, the whole half-inch gap kind of thing. Pop a lid on and put on the ring. Not too tight. But before I fill the rest of these, let me actually take a little taste of this just so that I can give you an idea of what it tastes like. Again, it's really, really hot, so I'm going to blow on it, like a lot. All right, here we go. Oh, that is lovely. Yeah, you can totally taste all the veggie in there. Very rich, very flavorful. Now, there's almost no fat in this, just so you realize. The only fat that's in there is whatever was inherent in the vegetables themselves. So it's very, very low in fat. There's no sodium added to this. So this is all just really natural extract of those vegetables. It's probably the best way to make a broth that I know of. And this stuff is just going to be super healthy to add to soups, to use in gravies, any number of things. We use it all the time. So I'm making some of this like every couple of weeks. Don't just take my word for it. Make this for yourself. Give it a try. It's going to be better than anything you buy in the store, and you're reusing things that you might have just thrown away. But if you like this video, look up. Another one up there. You might like that one too.